Hello. So now we're on to unit number 12. We're at the marketing mix, product and price. It's the first two items in marketing mix. Basically the 4Ps, product, price, place, promotion, and we're now at product and price. If you look at your textbook, that should be page 164. Let's look at the beginning. I am not going to read through every single thing here. You should be able to read through that on your own. What I'm going to do is I'm going to summarize each part so that you guys will be able to progress through the unit a lot faster, especially since we don't have a lot of time on a video. It's going to be very difficult. But let's look at product and price. So for the first part, we're looking at product, okay, and to understand what the product is. When you buy something, that something is usually a product. As long as it's something you can feel, touch, smell, it's an item, okay? Products and services are two very different things. Services are things that are intangible. You cannot touch them. You can't feel them. It's something that you experience. So an example of a product would be for like a phone, okay? But a service would be something like a phone plan, like a connection with Maxis or Celcom that gives you data. That's a service, okay? Getting into a taxi, that's a service. They're taking you from point A to point B. But buying a car, that's a product. So understand the difference between product and service. Now, basically, we're looking at products, okay? Anything that you buy from a store will be basically a product, something that you can put into a bag and take home with you. Now, products are launched onto the market, and there are various key points that will help a product be successful, okay? A few things you need to consider. First of all, the cost of the product, all right, and the development of the product. So let's look at page 165. It says here, cost and benefits of developing new products. Most businesses operate in very competitive and or fast-changing markets. The survival and success of this business depend on developing new products. So a lot of businesses need to develop new products. They change their existing products to meet the changes of taste of customers and change an existing product to enter a new market. This is interesting because if you look at our community right now, you see a lot of businesses have now switched in terms of service, how their products function. Because right now, with this whole restricted movement order, businesses can't function, correct? So you end up having some businesses that need to innovate. They need to develop their product line so that they can still be relevant. I was this video on the news that there was this one business. It's like a kopitiam that's quite popular. They have a pretty good clientele, and something that they've considered doing is starting a delivery service, because right now restaurants are not allowed to open for dine-in. They're only allowed for takeaway and delivery services. So this is development, but it's going to cost money, because to develop a service like that, there's riders, that's additional labor cost, that's also transportation cost, there's also packaging, there's a lot of things to consider. So there's going to be a lot of cost involved. But if they don't innovate, then this particular business may actually fail during this point of time, especially if they don't have enough cash to stay afloat, right? So developing new products is also very, very important. You see, especially in our technology, in the technological world, for example, phones or laptops, anything that's tech, they usually have a very short life cycle, and they spend about a year. For phones, nowadays it's like 8 months before the next generation comes out. So they have a very short life cycle. They have to keep developing new products to be relevant. So there are various costs and benefits here. You can see these items on page 165. They talk about how basically the monetary cost of developing products is very high. A lot of expenditure. There's no guarantee that the product is going to be successful even if you spend the money on it. For example, the Motorola, the new Razer, there's a lot of money invested into it. It's a very expensive product, but not very successful. Why? Because it's based off a gimmick. So even though you spend a lot of money on your product and your development, it does not guarantee that the product is going to be successful. In fact, there are a lot of products that have been released at a very low development cost but very successful. All right. Similarly, you look at movies as well. Some of the most expensive movies out there end up being flops. So just because you spend a lot of money doesn't necessarily mean that the product is going to be successful, right? There's no guarantee to that. But the benefit of product development is that you end up coming up with the latest products, you end up being relevant, you end up having opportunity, right? Versus companies that don't develop, okay, that don't innovate. Example, Nokia, right? And we've talked about that many times. Now, something to look at is brand image. A brand is the name given by a business to its product or range of products. All right? Creating a brand image increases the business's sales. Think about it. How often do you buy something based off brand? Probably most of the time. As long as you see a brand, you relate it to a certain level of quality or to customer loyalty, it helps you in your purchase versus buying an unbranded product. Okay? So brand image is important. Consumers recognize the product easily when they're looking at similar products. It also helps with introducing new products. For example, like let's say we look at a company like Samsung. You probably think of handphones the moment you think of the name Samsung. But did you know Samsung also produces air conditioners? They also produce refrigerators, TVs, microwaves, washing machines. So there is a certain level of quality that's associated with the name. So much so that a lot of people are willing to purchase other products that they've made, which may not necessarily be their specialty, but because of the brand name, customers are willing to take the risk and purchase the products from them. All right, so that's brand image. Okay, the next part we're looking at is the role of packaging. Like I've mentioned to you guys before, packaging is actually the secret fifth P, but don't write that in the exam unless it's released in the syllabus update. Okay, but packaging is also important. The design and materials of the packaging is very important because they help in promoting the product. You would understand this especially when you look at most recent products. For example, the Happy Meal box. That's packaging. It's an iconic packaging. That red house box with the golden arches logo on the top. That's iconic. Think of the KFC bucket. That's packaging as well. It's something that leaves a lasting impression on the consumer when they look at the product, when they want to buy the product. It's the packaging itself that does a lot of the work versus the product itself. Think about Coca-Cola, think about Pepsi, think about the colors that they use: red, Coke, blue, Pepsi, right? Think about iPhone boxes. They are always in the same setting, that same white box, or sometimes they use a black box, but whatever it is, it's in a similar box, and there's an unboxing experience to it. Think about products like I remember there was a point in time when you could buy these kebabs or something, and they would have this packaging where you peel off the middle and you can remove the top, and then you pull a string and it will lift the kebab out of that packaging. That's packaging as well. That also plays a huge role for consumers. Think about products like jars. I'm sure right now in your house you probably have in your fridge jars, probably jam jars, but your parents probably put like fish or something in those jars. Now, why do they do that? It's because the jars are reusable. They are of a good quality, so people consistently use them over and over again. Very good example of this is the Nestle ice cream tub, right? You probably open it in your house, in your refrigerator, and inside there's fish or vegetables or something. Why do our parents do that? It's because the plastic is reusable. It is reliable. But every time you see that blue Tupperware, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Ice cream. So it's part of branding. It's part of consumer giving the consumer an awareness of the product itself just by the packaging. So packaging is a huge subject on its own. You can even go into further study on it. There are a couple of points here on page 167. They talk about how it protects the product, it provides information about the product, it helps consumers to recognize the product. The packaging might be used more than once, and it's there to keep the product fresh. So packaging plays a huge role. Okay, just putting something into a plastic bag isn't going to sell your product. All right, you got to think about the quality of the packaging. Very, very important stuff. Did you know when you look at the top of those lids in of those McDonald's cups, they have various buttons on them which you can push down to identify what kind of drink is inside. Now our local McDonald's don't really use them, but it can be very useful, especially if you're with a group of people and maybe you order a diet drink and someone else did not order a diet drink. So they can click that diet button and it will identify what that product represents. So packaging plays a huge role in this sense, right? The next part we're looking at is the product life cycle. Okay, so we've got basically a total of 4 portions in the product life cycle. You can look at page 168. There are 4 items here. It's introduction, growth, maturity, and then decline. Okay, every product goes through these 4 stages. Right? They introduce the product, it starts off at the bottom and slowly grows towards growth. At growth, it's increasing. Once it hits the top and it doesn't grow anymore, that top is called maturity. It doesn't grow anymore, no more sales at all. And after maturity, eventually it'll hit decline and it'll start to go down, right? So that's the product life cycle. It happens for every single product. Some longer than others, some shorter than others. A good example of this is technology. Technology is usually shorter, like I said earlier on, 8 months, 1 year. But there are some products that last for like a really, really long time. For example, let's think of a product like Coca-Cola. The product life cycle is continuously growing, or it's already at maturity, but it's just consistently at maturity. The only way that they extend the product life cycle is through variations, promotions, rebottling, repackaging. Chinese New Year, you have Chinese New Year bottles, Christmas bottles, so on and so forth. It changes over time so that you extend the life cycle of the product. Okay, the product life cycle has there are various reasons for it to hit decline. A lot of times it's mainly because newer products are released. Okay, if you look at page 169, we talk about extension strategies. We've got various extension strategies. These are ways to keep the product from declining. Okay, you've got finding new markets for the product, finding new uses for the product, adapting the product or the packaging to improve the appeal to consumers, increasing advertising and other promotional activities. When you find a new market for the product, it is basically taking one man's trash, making it another man's treasure. A good example of this is if you look at vehicles like the Perdua Axia, which is actually a Daihatsu vehicle in Indonesia, right? So taking an old model vehicle and using the same mold again in another country and rebadging it, and you're selling it as a new product, but actually it's an old product, right? Companies do this a lot. They take something that's not really selling well in one country, introduce it to a new market, and suddenly it's a new product in that market, right? So it doesn't always work, but sometimes it does, and it does very well. Finding new uses for the product. All right, if you guys are using your phones, right, you would understand that every now and then you have new apps, you have new software updates, and these updates usually give you new uses for the product. So this extends the life of the product. Products that have a longer life cycle tend to be used by consumers for a longer period of time. For example, iPhones. Every time they release a software update, the iPhone's life cycle extends just a little bit more, even though you're using an old device, but that software update suddenly makes it a little bit more relevant. So that's how a company keeps the product relevant for a longer period of time before it dies off. And then we've got adapting the product or the packaging to improve the appeal to consumers. If you notice, a good example is the Coca-Cola bottle. Over time, it's changed from glass to plastic. And when it changed to plastic, they changed the shape of the bottle, the color of the well, they didn't really change the color, but the branding of individual styles of drinks. For example, Coke Zero was black, right? Coke Light, silver. Coke Classic, red. Okay, and Vanilla Coke, it's that beige-ish color. But then over time, they rebranded again, giving it a more minimalistic look. Just the Coke logo, everything's in red, and just one black line, one silver line, one beige line. It's about minimalistic product design. Okay, so these are ways that they extend the strategy. A good example of this is also the Super brand, right? Super Coffee, Super that super group of company or whatever. They they rebrand the product's the same product, they just repackage it so that it looks more relevant, more appealing to people. Okay, another way is to increase advertising and promotional activities. So the product is there, it's just maybe not as well known, so we use more advertising, more promotions, so that consumers get to know more about the product and use the product more often. And that's a way to extend the strategy, right? It's a way to extend the product life cycle. Okay, and then we have okay, you know what, we will just stop there first for now. It's already been about 16 minutes. What I want you guys to do is I want you to look at various products that you have in your home. Okay, don't go out, okay, but look at products in your home. Identify some products that you have in your home and see whether those products have been through some form of extension strategy. You can also do this online, search up various types of extension strategies. I'll give you some hints of products that you could look at. Think about PlayStation, think about Nintendo Switch, think about products like Yeezys, shoes, Adidas, NMDs, right? These are good examples. Think about cars. A lot of these companies have used extension strategies to prolong the life cycle of the product, right? So do that. If you have any questions, let me know. Okay, see you guys. Bye bye.